What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking a look at why VEVE releasing smaller NFT brands is critical for their long-term success. But before we do this, if you enjoyed this video then please consider dropping a like and subscribing if you're new around here. So let's just jump straight into this. We're going to be taking a look at here at why introducing smaller brands is so important for the overall user experience within VEVE moving forward. So the first point I want to touch upon is it allows development of product delivery and user experience. When you look at the application right now, we went from 15,000 members to 250,000 members in a very short window of time. Now, it's important to allow VEVE to sort of develop their product delivery overall so that you can increase that user experience when coming into this NFT collectible space and when they actually get introduced to VEVE as a whole. I actually believe the reason why this is critical and for all of us need to sort of take this into consideration is because let's say they delivered a product that didn't work correctly. Let's say that someone came into VEVE the first time, they bought an NFT and they were not able to use the product. This would be the same way as a user going into a shop, buying an action figure, and when they open it up from a box, it just falls to pieces. You know, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be a negative association to the product itself upon delivery. And smaller brands allow them to sort of facilitate that development of the application itself, which is extremely important moving forward for the overall growth of VEVE. It also gives the current VEVE users NFTs to collect. This is important. I touched upon this in a previous video that I created when the Cryptkins launch. You know, VEVE have now, when you look at the data, over 40,000 people have bought gems inside the application. Now, this is critical when we look at this because when you bring in a brand like Cryptkins, which is a smaller, more niche brand into the VEVE application, you allow users to essentially buy NFTs to collect the initial user base without over-influxing the application with too much external demand into the app, which is really, really important because it allows VEVE to deliver, in this case, it was close to 75,000 NFTs and test out their systems, test out their back-end up operation and delivery of product. Overall, allowing them to sort of iron out any more bugs without overloading the VEVE application with too much external demand, which increases that customer satisfaction, customer experience, giving the overall VEVE brand a much more stronger feel when they look to bring this out into a wider audience. And also, that sort of goes on to point 3 that I made. It doesn't influx the application with millions of new users because if you introduce Pokemon right now, okay, they're going to influx millions of people into VEVE too early, too soon, where they haven't got the right tech team in place to be able to facilitate that demand. The product doesn't get delivered correctly. And the overall knock-on effect is a poor customer experience and a sort of bad view of VEVE and a bad look of VEVE as a brand as a whole. And as an investor, we really do not want to see that happening. Now, so the long-term impact of having smaller brands is it increases that user experience like I spoke about before. You know, we allow the tech team to increase, we allow the delivery of collectibles in a more seamless way, increasing that user experience and reducing the resistance to NFT collectibles. You know, we have to remember this is a very, very, very new space. And so when we introduce somebody who's never heard of NFTs before into VEVE for the first time, we need to create the most seamless experience possible from a customer satisfaction perspective. Now, if they don't do this, then what's going to happen is they're going to reduce that user experience, which is going to increase the resistance to NFT adoption long term. Now, we don't want this, and I'm going to touch upon why later on why being in beta was so critical to allow VEVE to do this, and how the two elements sort of intertwine together between small brands and the overall development within VEVE and us being beta members. The point 2 is the VEVE brand doesn't get damaged by poor customer experience. I touched upon this previously. Bad product delivery is going to increase the overall negative connotation on VEVE application. You know, we're still quite a small user base right now. I know it seems like we've known VEVE forever, and it seems like because we're in this every single day that it's so well known within the NFT space. But the reality is the space itself, the marketplace of NFTs, is still very small. So when we look at this 250,000 members and then reflect on it when there's millions, tens of millions of users, our overall experience of in beta is just going to be completely wiped out and forgotten about. Everything you see that's happened within beta is just going to be forgotten about long term. And so it's important for us to remember this when we look at the overall brand itself. We need VEVE to maintain their sort of monopoly and brand reputation when we're moving forward into the NFT space. And then another thing which is extremely important, I think a lot of people haven't thought about this, and it's important, I'm going to touch upon this now, is that the license owners remain happy because their customers are happy and having a positive experience within VEVE. This is incredibly important to remember. VEVE do not own the rights to these licenses. Okay, the license owners are giving VEVE the ability to sell their merchandise. That is the way around this is happening. Now, let's imagine that Pokemon release a product into VEVE and have an overall negative experience. They're going to want to back their brand away from this, you know, because it would impact Pokemon's brand. You know, let's say they released a Pikachu NFT into the VEVE marketplace tomorrow. Okay, Pokemon got released, and 2, 3, 4 million people rushed into the application to get involved with the NFT launch, which I think when releasing Pokemon would be an actual underplay of how big this brand would be. Okay, and let's say that when they get into the application, it crashes, the product doesn't get delivered, the augmented reality doesn't work, the bugs haven't been ironed out. What are going to happen is that Pokemon are going to look at VEVE and go, look, we gave you the licenses. We gave you our agreement to use our licenses. It was your job to deliver the product in an effective way. And if they don't deliver the product in an effective way, they're going to look at VEVE and go, look, we love the concept of NFTs, but we don't think you're ready to deliver our products yet. So we're going to back away from this. We're going to take our brands away from VEVE. Now, we don't want this to happen. So when you look at the overall picture of the role we've played within VEVE right now, and I'm going to touch upon this in the next slide, within beta, we're going to see how actually our role in helping support VEVE long term is going to be critical for them to maintaining the overall satisfaction for the license owners and their customers that the license owners have. Now, the next point I want to touch upon here is the lessons we can learn from beta from a consumer perspective, because we can take the general feeling that's happened within the community and see why it's so important that we don't allow these particular emotions to be adopted in the wider audience when being exposed to VEVE. We're going to look at frustration. You know, as an initial beta user, we've experienced a lot of frustration with the application crashing. Now, obviously, that is part of being a beta member, but let's look at this as this feeling, this overall feeling, and see what it'd be like in long term if it was to be adopted by a wider audience. If they brought in bigger brands now, and it started to crash the application when millions of users came into this space, we're going to see that they're going to back away from NFTs. And we're going to have this knock-on effect with this negative connotation to the actual licensee owner and the VEVE application as a whole. Extremely damaging to a brand at this point, especially when you consider how new and how early we are in NFTs. We do not want this to happen. So as a beta member, we have to remember that it's our job to take these frustrations on, to take on this responsibility within being an early adopter, so that moving forward, it doesn't happen to the wider audience. We're going to have the anxiety as well. You know, was my purchase successful? We have seen this many times within the initial launches of the VEVE drops. It's when you went in with your gems and went to go purchase an NFT, you know, you didn't even know if you got it. It was like a lottery hit. Did I get an NFT? Did I not get an NFT? Now, this is another important point. We have to look into this. We cannot allow this to happen to a wider audience. When we look at VEVE as a marketplace, and that is what we are, we're a marketplace for NFTs. We are delivering high quality licensed memorabilia and collectibles to a wider audience. That is our job. That is what VEVE are here for. If they don't even know if the purchase has gone through, this is going to be an extremely negative association to VEVE as a brand, especially from a new consumer perspective. When you look at NFTs as a new collectible, we do not want them to have this experience. That was our job. That's why we were so critical as a beta member, and why I actually think the wider audience should be proud of themselves to be a part of this, to give the support to VEVE long term. This was our role within this. And look at number 3 is the disappointment. They didn't get the NFT they wanted. I've seen this a lot within the launches. You know, you couldn't even get into the application, and because you couldn't get into the application, you had your gems loaded up and you couldn't get the NFT you wanted. Now, we do not want to see this long term. And this sort of allows, you see how this comes into connotations with these new smaller brands coming into place. We're allowing VEVE from being beta members and launching these smaller brands into the initial user base within beta and within this 250,000 users that we have in VEVE to iron out these issues, these frustrations, anxiety, this disappointment. and iron out these emotions so that long term people don't have this association with VEVE. You know, that was our role within beta, and I just think it's super important that we remember where our place was within this journey, within this timeline, and we look upon this long term about where we are right now at the foundational level of the building blocks of this skyscraper of an idea moving forward. And then we've got the long-term impact if these are not resolved. We're going to have negative brand association. I spoke about this in my previous slide, but I'm going to push this point forward. Okay, we do not want a wider audience to have a negative association with VEVE long term. We want people to come into VEVE and say, wow, I love the experience. They deliver the product in a perfect way. We came into the application looking for our Superman NFT, and we walked away with our Superman NFT delivered in a beautiful and seamless and you know, in a professional way that not only gives a positive look on the licensees, but also as VEVE's marketplace as well, and how these two separate entities play two very different roles within this vision. You got the licensees experience, and you got the VEVE's delivery of product and experience for their customer base. Very important moving forward, and then also maintaining the current user base they have within VEVE's marketplace, which I touched on in a previous video. So you can see how these points sort of intermingle one another. We also, the second point is that it could create resistance to collecting NFTs long term, which is not what we want. You know, that negative experience of frustration, anxiety, disappointment, application crashing, unsuccessful delivery of products, not getting the NFT they wanted. You're going to cause resistance to collecting NFTs. This is a very new space, and if we create this resistance now and don't iron these bugs out and don't allow VEVE to iron these bugs out within launching these smaller brands, we're going to have a very big problem on our hands here. And this is why they've done it this way around. And I hope it's starting to push forward what I'm trying to get across here. And the number 3 is users lose interest due to poor product delivery and app experience. You know, you have a very small window of time to capture a user's attention, especially when you look at something this new. And we're very fortunate that VEVE have already these massive brands that have built long-term rapport and reputation within their current customer users. We're very fortunate that VEVE have been able to sell this vision in a way that has given these brands the confidence within VEVE's application to deliver the products in a correct way. We have to remember this when we look at what's going on here. It is the brands themselves that are bringing their licensees into VEVE. And if their users lose interest in the VEVE application, in the NFTs, then what we're going to end up happening here is it's going to have such a negative effect on VEVE's brand look and their brand feel, and also going to have a negative effect on the licensees themselves. And so you can see how these things sort of intermingle one another. You know, we took on the responsibility as beta users. Okay, and it's our responsibility to take the frustration, anxiety, disappointment, and to allow VEVE to learn from this experience, to be a two-way conversation. This isn't about telling people that the VEVE application is not very good, that it performs poorly. It's about us giving VEVE our experience in the application, our frustrations in a constructive way to deliver where our problems are, so they can continue to maintain the experience levels that we want within this application, so that you can see how these two elements intermingle with each other and why releasing smaller brands is so critical for the overall perspective within NFTs and the VEVE marketplace as a whole, as a brand, and the licensees brands as well within this NFT space. So I hope this video has made sense to you. Smaller brands hold a critical place within the overall growth of VEVE long term. And taking the lessons we've learned from beta and intertwine them within what they're doing within these smaller launches, to sort of not overload the application, but to continue to deliver the NFTs at a larger scale, so that we can sort of iron out these problems long term, is going to be critical for VEVE. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something from this, and it's sort of helped you understand my perspective behind what's going on here. If you've enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.